through the gates of death.
Dion Fortune, Chapter 6. Traditional Custom and Psychic Fact. There are many old customs connected with the passing of a soul which have their roots in psychic fact and are not merely superstitious. Some, of course, are pre-Christian in origin and their usefulness have passed away. Others are still valid, and it is helpful to observe them. Among these is the beautiful custom of placing candles and fresh flowers in the death chamber as soon as the soul has departed. There is a brief interregnum between the disanimation of the physical body and the withdrawal of the soul from the etheric double. During this period, the soul remains close to its physical vehicle, gradually disentangling itself from the meshes of matter and reorientating itself in its new state. The etheric double, cut off from the supply of prana or etheric vitality, which it derives from the sun while in incarnation, and not yet adjusted to its new condition, is apt to draw this vitality from whatever source may be available to it. This fact accounts for the sudden feeling of exhaustion, depletion, or even fear, which not infrequently comes to those whose duties cause them to be in the immediate neighborhood of the dead bodies, unless they shield themselves behind the armor of callousness. Those who have loved the dead are especially susceptible to this form of depletion. Now, it is undoubtedly a humane act to companion departed souls with thoughts of love and protection while they are going through the period of adjustment, and we may even in certain cases feel it wise to permit a soul that has gone out in fear and distress to cling for a while to our physical vitality before persuading it to take up the task of living its new life. These things have to be wisely and compassionately judged. We should always bear in mind, however, that the help we give to the dead should be directed towards helping them to make the transition to their new life, and not towards maintaining them in an intermediate state, which may lead to their acquiring the habit of death in life, and so becoming earthbound. There is a great difference between a mental rapport and an etheric rapport. The later is not a desirable thing. It rapidly becomes pathological for both the living and the dead, and should never be suffered to establish itself. There will, however, always be an instinctive, involuntary reaching out after etheric vitality by the etheric double, pending the commencement of its disintegration, and we can not only protect the living, but help the dead by understanding the nature of this phenomena and acting accordingly. Fire is an elemental form of etheric life, and the unguarded flame of a candle, fully exposed to the air, emanates a hot, inconsiderable portion of etheric substance. If we place lighted candles around the deathbed and cover it with fresh flowers, there will be available sufficient etheric emanations to meet the needs of the etheric double, tide it over its transition stage, and prevent it from drawing upon the vitality of the living. This is in every way more natural than allowing the dead to get into what may well end by being an unwholesome rapport with those who are left behind. And it is at the same time more humane than affording them no help at all. It is not right to leave the dead alone and neglected in the interval between their passing and the funeral of the body. When the final quittance is given, neither it is desirable or necessary to maintain a continual watch beside them, but 3 times each day, at morning, noon, and night, it is well to kneel in prayer beside the body, or, if this be not possible, to project the thoughts towards the spot where it lies, and imagine ourselves to be kneeling there as we pray. This is a great help to the departed, and should never be neglected. For, next to Christian burial, it is the greatest service we can render the dead. It is not a good thing to burn incense in the death chamber, because the fumes of incense lend themselves too easily to materialization, and it is our aim to help the departing soul to pass as swiftly and easily as may be through the phases of death and enter into the spiritual life, so that it may not linger within the atmosphere of earth wherein the pathologies of death occur. Drawing the blinds when a death takes place is another custom which has its roots in psychic fact. Nothing disperses an etheric double so quickly as sunlight, and it is in order that the process that follow immediately upon the withdrawal of the soul from the body may not be unduly hastened that the blinds are drawn and the sunlight shut out, and the living flames of candles alone used to light the death chamber. An exception should be made to this rule, however, when the nature of the disease has been such that partial death of the tissues has taken place before the death of the body as a whole, or when processes of disintegration follow rapidly upon the passing of the soul, as is the case with certain diseases. For this means that the etheric double has been almost out of the body before the actual end. There is therefore no need to await its disentangling, and the sooner the etheric substance returns to the soul of nature, the better. The wearing of deep mourning has a very marked psychic effect. Black insulates the wearer from etheric vibration, and a person so clad is more readily able to get in touch with the subtler planes than one clad in colors, which each attract their corresponding vibration. The custom of tolling the church bell, however, is as pagan as the kneeling and wailing at an Irish wake. It is intended to drive away evil spirits and should have no place in Christian burial. It is a great mistake, nay, a blasphemy, to think of our loved ones as dead, or to associate them with the dust that is returning to the earth, whence it came. We should think of the vital mind, the ever living and aspiring spirit, going up and on with its evolution and calling us to comradeship in that great adventure. It is for this reason that, from the esoteric standpoint, cremation is so much better than burial, for it frees not only the soul of the dead, but the soul of the living. We cannot cling to a handful of dust flying in the wind as we can to a body committed to the ground, returning slowly to Mother Earth. The last earthly service of love should be to take the ashes of the beloved one to some spot sacred to the memory of their happiness, and there scatter them on the wind, giving back to nature that which nature gave. There, as an altar dedicated to love's memory, may we seek to re-establish our contact not with the dead, but with the ever-living, sending forth our thoughts like birds into the unseen. It is seldom that they will return to us without the green leaf of hope. But we cannot do this as long as we identify in thought our loved ones with the dead body. Let us return that body to the elements at the earliest possible moment in order that we may free our love from the sense of death. Where cremation is not possible, then I would plant upon the grave some strong growing tree or shrub that shall draw upon the etheric life of the earth and give it to the air, as I have seen graves that are little gardens, not sealed with a stone, but full of life and beauty. Between the making of the grave and the placing of the stone, there must be elapsed a period of at least a year, and what can be more beautiful than to sow wheat upon the bare earth to symbolize that life that is given of God? For there is a legend that wheat does not belong to the evolution of our earth, but was brought from another planet by the Great One, who came without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life. Somewhere in the decoration of gravestone or coffin It is invariable to find the cross. Unfortunately, in our ignorance of the science of symbolism, it is almost invariably the cavalry cross that is represented. There are many different forms of the cross, however, and the cavalry cross represents sacrifice and renunciation. It is the Celtic cross with its long, tapering upright, small arms upon which is superimposed a circle, which is the sign of life triumphant unto salvation. This is the cross beneath which all that is mortal of an initiate should take its rest. To enclose a body in a leaden shell is a relic of barbarism. The soul has finished with the body and cast it off. Why should we seek to preserve it? The best casket for the mortal remains of those we love is one that will restore them to the earth as speedily as may be. For this reason, the traditional elm is better than oak, which is too enduring. If it is not possible to commit the clay to the swift and purifying fire, let the kindly earth perform its office in its own way, returning the elements of mortality each to its own place in nature. The soul is not really free until it has been done. Some shadow of earth will remain to cloud its awakening.